Do I think that the captain is the most important position on the submarine? No, I don't. And I'll tell you why. And sometimes the crew, they'll go up to me and they'll say things like, "Oh, Captain, you're amazing. You look so good. You're like a god to us." And I'll say, no. I'm just one of you. Just because I get to wear this hat, you know? And yeah, there's 20 years experience in a submarine and best grades in the Naval Academy, but it doesn't matter. I'm just like one of them. Just because I have the decision to take away 1 million lives at just a push of a button. I'm not going to say that there's nuclear weapons on the submarine, because that would be a national secret. I wouldn't divulge that sort of information. But I do have that kind of power in my hands, you know. And yeah, I'll just say to them, just like one of you, just part of the crew, really.
So if I move us a little bit to the southwest, and do you see what she was thinking was that this was an actual map, and I drew the
Yeah, I think it was a good idea to station the submarine in Slough. I think there's an inherent value in putting a submarine where people wouldn't expect it. Did military estimates say that Slough has absolutely no strategic military significance whatsoever? Yeah, sure they did. But I tell you what, those are just people who are writing things down with a pencil. They've never really seen any real action, you know, not like me, 20 years out on a submarine. There's a value in that people don't understand. And if they say to me, "That's a stupid idea, Efka, you should never ever do that," that doesn't mean they're right. It means I'm right.
Captain Sonar, he's a hero. Gonna take the enemy submarine damage to 4 points, because that's what you need to win the game. Oh, hi, hello, how you doing? Have you ever been 7? No? Well, neither have I. But people who have been 7 years old seem to fondly remember a game called Battleship. And that's one of the cool things about board gaming. It lets us remember the games that we played when we were kids with our families or with friends and enjoyed. But here's the thing, wouldn't it be nice to play Battleship again and enjoy it just as much as you feel you've enjoyed it? Because nostalgia, you know, it colours everything in very nice colours, and if you go back to Battleship, it's not really that great. But what if there was a game that makes it into a game, like a board gamer's game? That game is Captain Sonar. Captain Sonar is an immediately exciting proposition, because anyone you pitch this game to, doesn't matter whether they're a gamer or non-gamer, will at least get excited by its concept. You see, Captain Sonar is a real-time game. It does have a turn-by-turn mode, but let's ignore that exists for a second and talk about the main way that people are really going to be enjoying the game. The objective is to simply sink the enemy team's submarine. And everyone on your team, and ideally you will have 4 players per team, meaning, yes, this is ideally an 8-player team versus team game. Everyone on your team will have a completely unique role, and they will have their job to do, and everyone's job is equally important. Everyone is just as important as the other person, whether you're the captain, the first mate, the radio operator, or the engineer, which is the funniest part. You're all in this together, and only one of you is going to come away the winner. And because this is real time and incredibly frantic, I promise you, you're going to have so much fun playing this game. On the surface, get it, surface, because it's a submarine. On the surface, Captain's job is really easy to do. You simply at the start of the game pick where you're going to start, and then you go head north, and you have to yell it loudly so that everyone hears you. And then when everyone else is done doing their things, you just go head north again. You can pick another direction if you really like, and you can head east. Tell me if this is getting annoying. And you just keep going like that. Head west. No, I can't see because I can't snake back onto myself, and that's really the first kind of puzzle that the captain gets. He can't back into his own path, which does not sound difficult, and it isn't. But here's the real challenge of the captain. First of all, you are trying to hunt down the enemy submarine. So you're trying to go where you think they are. So your job is to communicate with the radio operator who's trying to figure out exactly where the enemy team is and go that way. But it is entirely possible that the enemy team is going to discover where you are before you discover where they are. And then your job is to get away. And here's the thing. Whilst all you're doing is giving a direction and yelling it loudly so that everyone can hear, what you're actually doing is you are inhibiting all the other team members in terms of what they can do. And the important job for you really is to not yell directions, which is what the rulebook instructs you. It's to actually do the opposite and listen. And listening can be very, very hard. And if the captain's job is to listen to their own team, then the radio operator has to listen to the enemy team. And once again, it's a job that sounds simple, but it isn't. Because all you have to do is you have to listen to the enemy captain say, head south, and then you draw one line south on this overlay that you have over a map, and then you immediately know that that is not where they are, because that line just went over an island. And that means one of two things. Either they made an illegal move, or it's simply not there. They're somewhere else. And you can adjust this wonderful overlays and just see where the other enemy team could potentially be. The tricky part is this. If at any point your line goes overboard, you have to erase the whole thing and start again, which is pretty much game over and the most frustrating thing that can happen to anyone. Number two, you have to be sure that you follow the enemy captain's directions exactly to the letter. And if you think that listening to someone yelling behind the screen, head south, head north, and drawing lines accordingly is easy, boy, are you going to feel stupid when you play the radio operator. Because very often, with all the cacophony of Captain Sonar going on, all you can hear is Radio Gaga, or Goo Goo, or some Gaga again. And as the first mate, your job is pretty simple, because all you have to do is you have to fill in this adorable little box. And once you've done that, that's it. See, whenever a captain says, head north, then you get to fill in one box. And once all the boxes are filled in on a certain system, that system can be activated, like the super duper drone technology. Drone, that's a new word I invented. That lets you name a sector. And when you name a sector, the enemy team has to say whether they're in that sector or not. Or you could fire up sonar. And if you fire up sonar, the enemy team has to tell one true thing and one false thing about their location, which hopefully gives your radio operator a better idea of where they might be. Or you can even fire off torpedoes and actually damage the enemy ship if you know where they are. But if you think that's easy, then, well, here's the little trick, right? This is not actually the first mate's job. The first mate's actual job is to, and you've heard this one before, kids, listening. Now, as the first mate, you don't really know what's going on. You don't know where the enemy ship is. You don't know whether we know where the enemy ship is. And you certainly don't know which systems can be activated or not, because the engineer needs to tell you whether they're broken or not. And that's what's funny about being the first mate. You are sandwiched in between all the other roles, and you are not just the person who hears the information, but you're the person that relays the information between all your party members. And that can be very, very difficult. But it can be rewarding, especially if you get it right. Now this is the funniest one, because if you think that your submarine's any good, then I have some news for you. It isn't. It's a jalopy, really. Let's be honest, it's a piece of crap. Basically, every time you move, something breaks. And as the engineer, you're the one who's going to have to break it as well. See, whenever a captain gives you a heading, like head south, you have to mark off a bit on one of the south bits. And let's say you cross this out. So if I crossed out a yellow bit, and if there are any any crossed out yellow bits on this map, then none of the yellow systems work. And if the captain heads south again, then you have to cross another bit out. And if you cross a green bit out, then neither the sonar nor the drones work anymore, and you can't activate anything. But the only way you can remove these breakages is basically by filling in a complete line. And there are 3 lines on this strange engineer board. And when you do, you can erase all the bits on that line, and all those systems would be working again, except for the silence one, because again, that's broken on a different system entirely. But on top of that, you have these 6 radioactive slots, and if you fill in any of them, effectively that doesn't do anything. But once you fill in all of them, then your submarine has to take 1 point of damage, and that's a quarter of your health gone. However, thankfully, when you do, you get to erase all the damage on the board. And on top of that, if you fill in everything in one section, north or west, for example, in this scenario, again, you'd have to take 1 damage. You can erase everything from the board, and everything works again. But the real reason the engineer is so funny is because his job is not to break things and to fix things. Yes, I'm gonna say it again. His job is to talk to other people, actually, and not listen. See what I did? It's talking, actually. It's funny, okay? It's funny. You see, it's the engineer that made me fall in love with Captain Sonar, because the engineer role is really what takes it from a kind of a wonky real-time game and makes it into a real gamer's game. It makes it into a puzzle, a complicated puzzle that you have to solve by communicating with everyone on the table. Because if you're not communicating and you're just doing things on your own, you're not going to win this game. Because if the captain keeps going head north and you mark off north again, and you have to mark that last bit of damage off, and if you haven't relayed to the captain, look, we really shouldn't be doing this, then your ship is going to just drown like a sardine in a tin can, because sardines in tin cans can't swim. But the most funny thing about being the engineer is that at one point you're going to take so much damage that you're going to have to surface, because nothing is working. And surfacing is pretty neat because, as a mechanic, because when you surface, you can erase all the damage off and it's all gone. And it's not just damage, you can erase the route that you've been going on. And the funny thing is, you can't do anything whilst you're surfaced. All you can do is, and this is great because this is embracing the fact that Captain Sonar is effectively a kid's game. Because all you have to do is you have to draw a line in the box, and you have to make sure that that line does not go out of the box. And then once you're done drawing the line, you pass it to your teammate. And then your teammate does the exact same thing. He draws a line in the box, and if he accidentally goes outside, he has to erase it and start again. And if you erase that bit, you have to pass it back to the first person. They'll erase it, and then they'll start again. Because if you have not done this well, and pass it to the other team's engineer, and they will examine it and look at it and go, that's not fine. You'll have to do that all over again. The problem is, when you surface, you can't move, and you tell the enemy team where your sector is, and all that time, they're moving towards you. And I've never met a game in my life, and yes, you can meet a game, where drawing lines, literally drawing lines on a piece of paper is incredibly suspenseful. It's just drawing a line, really. It literally is just drawing a line, and it's fun. I can't believe that this is fun, but it really is. It's really, really fun. Let me tell you why it is that I like Captain Sonar so much. You see, it's not just because it's a completely different game than any other game that's out there. No, Captain Sonar is unique because it makes you use a completely different skill set. You are using, in most board games, when you're playing a game, you get to sit down, you get to have a pause, a brief think, and you get to decide on what it is you're going to do. And then you eventually go, I'll move that cube to the left. But you don't have time to do that in Captain Sonar. And not just because it's a real-time game, it's because it's a team game and you're solving this puzzle together with 4 other people against 4 other people. And it's hard, it's very hard, and you have to make instinctive gut decisions. You don't have time to decide which move is better. You simply have to
go with what your gut tells you is right. And there's no way of knowing whether you should have actually fired up silence instead of dropping a mine is the right thing to do. Only when the game ends, maybe you can evaluate that you've done something wrong or you've done something right. And the only way you're going to be better at Captain Sonar is if you play more Captain Sonar. And eventually, when the game is done, you get to collapse everything and compare notes to the other player and say, have you also drawn Pikachu's butt? Because I have. Is that not within the rules? Because I thought, this Pikachu's butt. It's good. And that's the thing about Captain Sonar. It's loud, boisterous, and in your face like a rampaging rhino. And it's exciting. It's maybe not for everyone, but for 45 minutes, you'll get to yell a lot and make yourself feel like you are making really important decisions on a make-pretend submarine that only really is a submarine because you have two giant screens that depict a submarine. But that's great. That's kind of what I want from Captain Sonar. It can make you feel frustrated because you will feel like you're not necessarily relaying to your team what you need to relay, and the decisions they're making, they're not necessarily the decisions you want them to make. But trust me when I say this, it's not them, it's you. And I mean that in the royal sense of you, as in all of you. You just need to be more cohesive. Sometimes that's not going to necessarily work because you might be playing with 3 random strangers in a convention. And that's still fun. I think it's a fun experience to have. And it's special in a way. There's no other game like that out there. Captain Sonar, I can't find the box, is unique. And I want it to be unique. I actually don't want other games like Captain Sonar to exist. I want it to be that one thing. Because when I go to a convention and meet 7 random strangers and I say, hey, do you wanna be in a submarine together with me? I want them to know what that means, and I want them to know that that is special. And sure, you might not always have those 7 other people, and you can play with less, but that simply means that the captain then has to be the first mate, and if there's less people, you also have to be the engineer, and if there's even less people, if there's just 2 of you, then you also have to be all the roles, and then you're just kind of yelling at yourself and the other person behind the screen that you can't really see, but you're all making very important decisions. So that's it. That's Captain Sonar. Buy it. Buy this game because you'll have fun if you can find those friends. And if you can't find friends, then tell your skeleton that you've got his leg and he can't go because it's your birthday. And you spent your birthday filming a sketch of the Office booth in Slough. And that was your birthday. And you now need to make a video about Captain Sonar. And you've got his leg. By Captain Sonar.
My mama cooks in Italy, my mama swims in Argentina, mama's got a chunga, yeah. My mama's works in Venezuela, mama like